This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Connie Chung.
Good evening. Dan and Connie are both off tonight. I'm Paula Zahn. It is now or never time if Congress is going to pass some kind of health care reform this year. With the clock ticking, President Clinton and Senate Republican leader Bob Dole faced off on the issue today in Boston. And the president seemed to indicate that he's ready to deal. White House correspondent Bill Plant begins our coverage.
Facing heavy congressional opposition to parts of his health care reform plan, President Clinton signaled the nation's governors he is open to compromise on requiring employers to pay for most of their workers' insurance.
But I would not rule out a health bill that didn't have an employer mandate if we knew we were moving toward full coverage.
Senate Republican leader Dole pitched his own health reform plan to the governors, and once outside the room, he criticized Mr. Clinton's approach.
Why does the president say, well, I've got to have it all, because I wanted it all in whatever it was a year and a half ago. They're not going to get it all.
Dole's plan would not require employers to pay for health insurance, nor would it require all Americans to be covered. He says compromise is possible, but only if the president moves in his direction.
We think we've gone a long way, and there's no use kidding anybody. We're not going to go any further.
Then Mr. Clinton went out of his way to suggest that he wasn't moving in Dole's direction and urged news people to report the substance rather than the politics of the story. But he repeated his willingness to change the percentage or split of health insurance paid for by employer and employee.
I'm open to changes in the split. I'm open to a lot of things.
Including a redefinition of universal coverage.
We don't cover 100% of people in Social Security, and it's universal. Social Security is universal. I want a universal program, but we can't physically get to 100%.
After Mr. Clinton's speech, the White House staff insisted that he had not wanted to create the impression that he was backing down from his original proposal. But his remarks provoked enough of a furor that he tried to make the point again on his return to the White House.
I'm for full coverage. I've got a bill. The burden's on everybody else now.
But never mind, the message Mr. Clinton did send, perhaps intentionally, is that he is ready to deal. Bill Plant, CBS News, Boston.
This is Bob Schieffer at the Capitol. Whatever the president meant, when Dole returned here and saw a transcript, he was all but incredulous and delighted.
Apparently he's now willing to drop his demand for employer mandates, just reading it here again to be sure. And it seemed to me that he's inching in our direction.
Dole said dropping the controversial mandates could be the first step in breaking the logjam, and some key Democrats who don't like mandates either were quick to see a compromise brewing.
I think this is good news.
I think sometimes it's all in the eyes of the beholder, but this beholder thinks it's good news.
The president's words rejuvenated a bipartisan Senate group that's been fashioning its own compromise. To them, the best news was the president is defining universal coverage as less than 100%.
When he's talking universal coverage equals 95%, he's singing our song.
So intentional or not, the president may have started something. Yesterday, everyone here was pretty glum about striking a deal on everything. But today, the talk was a lot gentler, and people were beginning to say, maybe compromise is possible after all. Paula?
Guess we'll see. Bob Schieffer, thanks so much, reporting from Capitol Hill tonight. By the way, the latest CBS News New York Times poll out tonight indicates the vast majority of Americans, nearly 8 out of 10, do not expect Congress to act on health care reform this year. Also, our poll found the public still thinks the Democrats are more likely than the Republicans to improve the health care system. In Rwanda, victorious rebels swore in a new government today and called on refugees to return. But up to 3 million people have now fled overwhelming refugee camps in neighboring countries. President Clinton is planning to send a small number of U.S. troops to Zaire to help with the relief effort. CBS News correspondent Dr. Barb Arnott is on the scene now near the border of Rwanda and Zaire. We warn you in advance, the pictures you're about to see are graphic and gruesome.
Nightfall in a nightmare. Even the biblical Exodus could not rival the descent into hell, which over 1 million Rwandan refugees have made into Goma. Like most, this schoolteacher and his family fled fearing for their lives. Are you in danger?
Well, yes, I am in danger.
Do you have food?
I have no food now.
You have no food?
No food.
Nothing for anyone?
Nothing now.
Just hours before, The first American relief flight arrived in Goma, carrying 80,000 pounds of badly needed food, medicine, and shelter, barely enough to supply 5,000 people.
It will make some small difference, and most importantly, it will tell these people, 700,000 of them, that there's people out there that care. These people happen to be Americans.
But in this desolate city, despite 2 months of warnings by international aid workers, these supplies are too late for thousands. Along every road, bodies of the dead lie on the ground, some tossed onto piles, children watching other children die. The fastest, biggest refugee exodus in history has spun out of control.
We can't cope with it. It's 1 million people. Think about that. It's like a small city in itself, but a city without any kind of services, with a lack of basically everything.
And the flood is continuing, with over 1 million more refugees reported headed across the border south of here in Bukavu. Today, the newly installed government of the Tutsi-dominated Rwanda Patriotic Front was sworn into office. They are trying to persuade Hutu refugees to return and others not to flee, saying there have been and will be no reprisals.
Africa now has more refugees than any other place on earth, most of them from civil wars just like Rwanda's. Once these people are driven from their homes, they spent years to decades in camps. If recent African history is any guide, these people can expect to be here for a very long time. Paula?
Bob, you have covered terrible refugee situations before in other African countries like Somalia and the Sudan. How is this crisis different?
Paula, the sheer numbers just defy the imagination. To think of one country emptying out into another. In the night air, you can feel the tension. It's a giant tinderbox ready to explode into violence and epidemic disease. Paula?
We have heard so much over the last 48 hours about how backlogged things are at the airport there. With so many people and then so little aid coming in at this point, what seems to be the most pressing health problem at the moment?
Well, the UN has prioritized food as number one. There are starving people here, a dead baby just 10 feet away from me. Second would be cholera, the different dysenteries, the diarrheal diseases. And third, again, this epidemic of violence. This hospital down here is full. They have 30 operations scheduled for tomorrow morning alone.
All right, Dr. Bob Arnott reporting from Zaire. Thank you very much. And still ahead on the CBS Evening News tonight, black leaders look for assurances that the O.J. Simpson jury will be multiracial. And on Eye in America tonight, suing tobacco companies for damage to state coffers. In the beginning, the story was about a brutal double murder. O.J. Simpson accused of slitting the throats of his former wife Nicole and her friend Ronald Goldman. Today, there were new signs that it could also become a story about race. Correspondent Sandra Hughes in Los Angeles has the latest on the O.J. Simpson case.
For the first time, Al Cowlings visited O.J. Simpson in jail today, spending about an hour with his best friend. Several miles away at today's meeting between Los Angeles District Attorney Gil Garcetti and black community leaders, topic A was making sure the O.J. Simpson case doesn't inflame racial divisions in the city.
The history of black people and the criminal justice system has been one of unfairness. It's been one of a double standard of justice.
I am hopeful, I'm confident that we can indeed find
white, black, brown, every color juror there is who will indeed be fair and impartial.
The racism issue came up yesterday when the Simpson defense team floated a theory in the media suggesting that LAPD Detective Mark Furman is a racist and that he found not one but 2 bloody gloves at the murder scene, then planted one on Simpson's estate to frame him. The defense even pointed CBS News to a portion of Furman's testimony where he used the plural when asked about the glove he found at the murder scene.
There's a iron fence, and through that iron fence you can get very close to the male victim. And looking there, I could see them down at his feet.
The police union says Furman's no racist.
Trying to plant a seed in someone's mind who is a potential juror that they could probably never get legally introduced in a court of law.
Noted LA defense attorney Johnny Cochran, who's negotiating to join the Simpson defense team, says they may yet exploit the race issue if needed. This even though Simpson attorney Robert Shapiro says he may go after Detective Furman's credibility, but won't call him a racist. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
By the way, John Mack of the Urban League told the district attorney he should not seek the death penalty in the Simpson case or in any other case for that matter. Mack said the death penalty is, quote, morally wrong. In Miami, the murder victim was not a celebrity, nor is the accused, but the crime was no less shocking. Correspondent Reed Galen has that story.
They did not know Charles Bells, most of them, but they filled the church with grief for another innocent victim, another shattered mother, and for their community.
Such a despicable and deplorable act.
In Miami and other American cities, we often now hear the description, shocking, senseless murder. But this one puts the chill back into that almost routine phrase.
Anybody could have been driving down that street last Tuesday at 7:30.
And tried to do the right
thing.
Charles Bells was killed by a mob after he stopped to help a girl who had darted in front of his car. She wasn't seriously hurt, but a dozen young men jumped on Bells, beating him. There was a shot. As 44-year-old Bells lay dying in his car, the attackers took what money he had and walked off laughing.
They take the life and just forget about it.
It wasn't that the mob was incensed at Bells for hitting the girl. Witnesses said the young men were already spoiling for a fight when Bells jumped out of his car.
It sends a chilling message. Don't care so much about other people.
Charles Bells was one of the good guys, grew up in the community, worked in the same funeral home since he was in high school, took care of his mother, played by the rules. Charles Bells was, in his own quiet, modest way, a success story in a neighborhood where there are too few happy endings. It doesn't surprise anyone that the 16-year-old accused of pulling the trigger has a record of violent crime without incarceration. But there was less anger than dismay at Bells' funeral. Every mother there thinking, it could have been my good son.
It was so good.
Reed Galen, CBS News, Miami.
Stay with us for more of the CBS Evening News, including a farewell frenzy in North Korea for President Kim Il-sung. Bosnian Serbs voted on a peace plan today, but they refused to disclose their decision. Instead, they sent it on to Geneva to mediators from the U.S., Russia, France, and Germany. The mediators wanted a clear yes or no on the plan, which would split Bosnia between the Serbs and a Muslim Croat federation. The Serbs are reportedly asking for more changes. North Koreans put on a great show of grief for the funeral of Kim Il-sung today. The self-styled great leader had ruled the country with an iron fist for nearly 50 years. Correspondent James Hattori reports.
It was a spectacle of emotions, millions of North Koreans lining the streets, sobbing and wailing as a motorcade with Kim Il-sung's casket on the roof of a limousine circled the city, all staged, as if from some Stalinist script, by Kim's movie buff son, Kim Jong-il, the new great leader. Once the observances end, it's expected the mysterious 52-year-old will get his official titles and face worldwide scrutiny.
We ought to be friendly and non-threatening and sort of give him the benefit of the doubt and play to his better nature, assuming that he has a better nature.
The North is receptive, according to a Japanese woman who was in Pyongyang during Kim's death and who talked with one of Kim Jong-il's top advisors.
Oh, I think they're very eager to have a good relation with American and to start having a good talk.
Other countries are tentatively reaching out to the new regime, though it can be difficult politically. In Japan, more than a few eyebrows were raised when the new prime minister, a socialist with long-standing ties to North Korea, expressed condolences for Kim Il-sung, a man who came to power as a revolutionary who fought Japanese occupation forces. But there's no official sorrow in South Korea, where supporting the North can be punished by death. The government is cracking down on students who want to travel to Pyongyang or stage their own memorial, fearful such activities will promote unrest. But in North Korea, it appears the lid is on for now, at least until the grieving gives way to worrying about what happens next. James Hattori, CBS News, Tokyo.
Smokers who claim their health was damaged by cigarettes haven't had much luck suing the tobacco companies. The industry has never had to cough up a penny, but now there is a new offensive. State governments are beginning to sue cigarette makers for damage allegedly done to the state's financial health. Correspondent Wyatt Andrews has the story in tonight's Eye on America.
I was smoking 2 packs a day at least, maybe even more.
Strapped to a tank of oxygen, Patricia Howard has terminal emphysema, which she blames on 30 years worth of smoking.
I feel like that's what caused it, and if I smoked one right now, that it would kill me.
Patricia is on Medicaid, meaning that Florida taxpayers are paying for this treatment, roughly $20,000. What's new is that Florida and at least 7 other states now believe the tobacco companies should repay the state for all Medicaid expenses related to smoking. Multiply Patricia times hundreds of thousands of smokers, and the stakes are in the billions.
We have to clean up the carnage that's being caused by these tobacco products.
Florida's Governor Lawton Chiles.
I think every governor is concerned about the exploding cost of Medicaid. We are an innocent party, and the state is going to go try to get its money.
Medicaid reimbursement is the toughest legal assault on tobacco ever devised, and the theory behind it is simple.
Take a deep breath in. And
because of studies that estimate that smoking causes about 87% of all lung cancer, for example, the states want the tobacco companies to pay 87% of Medicaid's costs to treat lung cancer, and that's just one disease.
79.7% of your patients have emphysema because of smoking.
That's right.
Harold Lewis is the state's chief health care lawyer.
We can tell exactly how many Medicaid enrollees were in each category of the disease that we're alleging was caused by smoking.
Of all the states now considering one of these lawsuits against the tobacco industry, Florida is by far the biggest threat. Here, not only is the state threatening one of these lawsuits, but the legislature has already changed the law to make it easier for the state to win the lawsuit.
Do you know the Senate goes in at 10?
John French, the lead lobbyist in Florida for tobacco giant Philip Morris, complains the new law is unfair.
They're not only stacking the deck, they're not going to give us any cards.
Tobacco companies usually win the lawsuits filed against them by arguing that smokers play a role in injuring themselves. But the new law in Florida says that argument is no longer allowed.
Basically, you're stripped naked of all your defenses. We cannot raise the recklessness, the negligence, or anything else of the Medicaid recipient.
Another controversy is that the new law could apply not just to tobacco, but to any business. Dairy and beef farmers like Donald Bennick worry they could be sued for the cost of treating high cholesterol.
We're susceptible to having to reimburse the state for any Medicaid payments for any illness that they perceive that they can blame back onto us as the producer.
Governor Chiles insists only tobacco is on the target list, and the tobacco companies know they are vulnerable.
I really feel like if I'd quit a long time ago, it wouldn't have got as bad as it did.
Remember, tobacco this time is not being sued by an individual like Patricia, who has suffered an injury. It's being sued on behalf of the millions of people who have paid to treat the injury. In Tallahassee, Wyatt Andrews for Eye on America.
And still ahead on the CBS Evening News, 25 years after the first lunar mission, whatever became of all those moon rocks? On Jupiter, the hits just keep on coming. The giant planet was hit by 2 more comet fragments today. So far, scientists say they are puzzled by what has and has not been detected from Jupiter. Space researchers were sure they would detect water when the comet pieces barreled through the planet's cloud cover, but so far, not even a drop. However, they did detect lots of ammonia. One thing, though, is clear already. The data from Jupiter will be keeping researchers busy for years. Case in point, just look what happened to samples of rock from the moon. 25 years after the first moon mission, those rocks are still producing wonder here on Earth, even greed. Correspondent Scott Pelley has the story.
Yeah, got it. That's 20 pounds of rock.
They cost $25 billion to collect, and even then it wasn't easy. The 842 pounds of rock mined by Apollo prospectors is today some of the rarest stuff on Earth.
It's without price. It's far too valuable to put a price on.
Behind double locked doors and a hurricane-proof vault, NASA's still chipping away after a quarter century, sending tiny lunar bits to about 50 research labs, still working on the question of how the solar system was formed. Any dust too small to study is destroyed.
They're a national treasure, and nobody should be able to profit from something that belongs to all of us.
Even so, over the years, some bits of lunar material have made their way out into the general public. Some of it has been traded on an international black market.
Those samples were stolen from gifts handed out by Richard Nixon. They were lost after coups in Pakistan and Nicaragua.
$220,000.
Last year, Russia auctioned dust it retrieved with a robot for nearly $500,000, more than 100,000 times the price of gold.
I think it'd be worth more than like a regular rock.
It's against the law to own an American moon rock, but you can touch one at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum.
Touch a piece of the moon.
After a generation, lunar pay dirt fascinates the curious and challenges the scientists, the last active mission of the Apollo adventure. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Houston.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. Coming up tomorrow on CBS This Morning, what you need to ask your doctor about the prescription drugs you take. Hope to see you then. I'm Paula Zahn. For Dan, Connie, and all of us here at CBS News, have a good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Experience CBS News.
This is CBS.